Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Off Market Podcast. This week we have Allison Chapleau, the number one listing agent of multi-unit buildings in San Francisco. She has over 20 years of experience in the multi-unit, mixed-use, and commercial space and has closed well over $1 billion worth of properties. She currently serves as Senior Vice President at Compass Commercial Brokerage. And if you're looking to buy or sell multi-unit buildings in San Francisco, Allison's your gal. Allison, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Austin. So nice to connect with you. Looking
So
forward to having this chat.
So tell us, how did you get into real estate? I know you graduated from University of San Francisco, you get your BS in business administration, you get a minor in finance, you jump into real estate. How'd you get into it?
Yeah, so I went to USF. I graduated. So I graduated in 2002, which is kind of predating one of the first downturns in .com of 2004. Vacancy was like 0% in San Francisco. There was no, the jobs were like maxed out. It was hard to get an apartment. It was hard to get a job. And I was selling perfume at Macy's. I was running around with an internship at UBS, and I was doing a little bit of everything. My mom put me in contact with a broker who used to work at Marcus Millichap. He had turned into an owner, and he's like, yeah, sure, I'll go to lunch with Allison. Went to lunch, and he's like, hey, I think you're gonna be a great agent. You should be an agent. So I was like, well, I didn't really know what that meant. And he's like, hey, meet with this guy up at Marcus in San Francisco. He's looking for an assistant. So he's 22, like maybe $10 in my name and $100,000 in credit card debt. I'm in a bad spot. And I roll up. He's like, so how do you feel about being a real estate agent, like in an all dominated male world? So I didn't know it was all dominated male world. I had no idea. I was just like needing a job. And I was like, well, I serve competitively. I'm the only girl, maybe two girls on the serve team. So I think I'm good. And they're like, okay, great. You can start tomorrow. We'll fire the guy we just hired the other day. And so I started working for another top agent. And from there, I, ran around, washed his car, watered the plants, opened his listings, copied keys, listened to everything, and just kind of kept going. They had an internship program, so I worked for basically like $400 a week I signed an 18-month contract. I was just stoked to have a job. And I learned to cold call, manage his listings, water the plants, get the car washed. I learned San Francisco, and that's how I got started. And immediately it was like, oh, that's the right fit for me. I loved real estate. I understood it. I got why people were buying it. I wanted to own it myself. I'd say that's the key to anyone getting into real estate. If you don't want to own the real estate, you're in the wrong job. That's my story. Yeah.
I love it. So take us back to that first deal. So you decide, hey, I'm going to be an intern. You work for the company, learn how to cold call,
I'm
wash
going to be
the
an
cars,
intern. I'm working for Jay.
And ultimately,
he's like, okay, your internship is...
Yeah, internship's over and you get your first deal. Talk to us about that.
Internship's over. He's like, I don't think you're going to have what it takes to be a real estate agent. I just don't see this. So I was like, I'm sitting in the cubes. In fact, I don't even have a cube at Marcus. They'd put me in the kitchen because they were out of cubes. And I was like, I don't know. So I made friends with a receptionist. This is my first deal, which is also my best deal. And this guy called to sell a mortuary in Weed, California. And Darlene was like, hey, this guy called off the Sacramento Bee ad we had, and he needs to sell, and so I'm gonna send this to you. And so I picked it up. I was like, yeah, okay. He's like, I got this appraised value. I was like, no idea. So I'm sitting in the kitchen, and here comes Vince Schwab. Vince is like a top commercial industrial broker. It's like, hey, he's the first comes. I was like, oh, perfect person. I'm just gonna ask Vince. And Vince is like, Allison, I'll split it with you 50-50. He's like, what is this thing, right? He's like, I need to get some hours of my plane flying. It's in Weed, California. We're in San Francisco. And so he went up and signed up the listing. I did all the legwork. It took us 9 months to sell it. And I mentioned earlier in the call, I had I think it was $80,000 in credit card debt. My first commission was $80,000. And it after... I closed the deal. So, the thing is, I just said yes to everything. And that deal, I couldn't not broker because I had such bad credit card debt. There was no oh, let me go take a job, because I would have loved to work for a surf company, been in Hawaii, gone to Mexico. I would have loved to do anything. But I loved real estate, and you can make an unlimited amount of money. And so I just did it.
You sell your first deal. And then you realize, oh, wow, this is really lucrative. Then it sounds like you
Yeah.
start to, you find your riches in the niches, which in this case was like multi-unit buildings. Talk to us about, you get the first deal. How do you parlay that? And then the second and third, and ultimately, why do you decide to focus on multi-units?
Yeah, so that took me a little bit while. I didn't really focus into San Francisco real estate until 2010, 2009. It was like right around the financial crash. I sold a bunch of like Dunkin' Donuts, triple net deals. I like worked on everything around like Church's Chickens. I sold a fourplex in Long Beach. I mean, I was 22. Like I took anything. I was like, I want to sell it. I'll sell it. Like, and I figured it out and people trusted me. I am trustworthy. Like I'm going to work on it. Like if you give me something, like I just said yes. And I always brought in people to every one of my deals. So that would be like my really big feedback. So like if you're getting into the investment space or residential, I wasn't greedy. I didn't like, oh my God, if I didn't, I knew I was going to be okay and it was all going to work out for me. So $400 was better than no $100. And so I was like, let's do this. And I brought in agents on every deal. I always had a co-listing agent. I had somebody new to talk to the client and I listened to what they did and how they talked and who they were. And I knew I didn't know what I was doing, but everyone, I think if you ask them, I worked really hard. I was going to show up. You were going to call me. Never underestimate the power of picking up the phone. And so I started through it in 2009, financial world crashed. I guess there was a couple years before that. I did earn Rookie of the Year in 2007 at Markets. I was cold calling, hating my life. I felt like I was down in the dumps. And, cold calling wasn't for me. It didn't resonate, but I'm up for a challenge and I needed to survive. And the need to survival outweighed I dislike this. And so I just muscled through. And in that, I started a networking group. I started to get in front of clients. I did anything. This is pre-internet. Like in my cold calls, it was like, hey, this is Allison Chapleau. I'm with Marcus Millichap. Oh, like I saw a for rent sign on your building. Like that was my big lead generator. And, let me talk about the rental. Oh, do you have email? Like that, like what you have today, like you can pop up an Instagram in 30 seconds and be like, I sell real estate. Off you go. Like, be grateful for that. I did not have that.
Yeah, right. You had to build your own brand. You had to go do driving for dollars, try to find out.
Before you knew what a brand was, no one was like, I have my personal brand. I'm like, personal brand. Like,
right.
So,
That's before it got easy, and now
exactly.
now it's still not easy.
Yeah, it's pretty easy actually at this point.
Fair.
The deal could be hard, but brokering not so hard now.
I don't know. I hear 50% of agents didn't sell a single deal last year, so could be pretty tricky.
Selling some real estate, but bringing real estate, yeah. I guess we can go down that road. But.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'd love to hear your perspective on that. What are some of the things that those agents are doing wrong? They can't figure out how to sell a listing, or they can't figure out how to represent a buyer. Like, what are some of the things that they're maybe doing wrong that's making it harder for themselves than it needs to be?
Well, I think if you're stuck in, I'm going to be in this field because I'm selling real estate, like as a one-off, if you're focused on like your results today, your results tomorrow in the quarter and not the process, probably not you're not going to serve your client. You're not going to grow your business. That's not where I would recommend. I think you make a business plan, you farm. I'd say farming has been like, there's a couple things I've done in my business that have like catapulted my business. And they've been little things every day, every month, every week over a long period of time. None of them by themselves are hard, but anything small steps that resonated with what I was good at. I'm a good marketer. I connect with people, highly intuitional. If I talk to somebody and I'm like, no, they're not doing it, I would immediately package them, put them on this email list and be like, okay, this is someone that's probably not going to do anything in the next 2 to 5 years, but I want to stay in front of them. Perfect. Here they go. How do I market to that person with a 5-year? How do I market to a person with 10-year? And so I'm really good at like basketing the time horizon. And I think sensing that every person that comes across my desk is valuable. There's no lower, there's no higher. Everyone is their own important thing. and then but knowing where to put them in the thing.
I love it. So
yeah, I wouldn't get focused on a deal. I wouldn't get focused on a quarter. I wouldn't be focused on a half a year. Like right now, we're about to take a huge run. It's really similar to like 2014, where there's an amazing amount of opportunity. The world's transferring. The big difference between 2024 and 2014 is money was like free in 2014. Now you need the cash, and the real estate's a better deal now than it was then. But there's just not a ton of inventory because not a lot of people need to sell.
Yeah, that's right.
In San Francisco.
Yeah, maybe talk to us about farming, because I think that's a concept that very few people have a very good understanding of. So talk to us about what farming is and why that's important and some of the tips you've learned along the way.
So I'd say farming is really important. It's about the data. So really connecting to the data, who you're trying to connect to, have the goal with your farm. So like it's one thing to be like, okay, these are my 1,000 people. And Marcus taught a great thing. It was like you break up your data. Like I see one of the biggest mistakes in farming is you take agents and they're like, I want to hit these 10,000 people. Well, hitting 10,000 people is like a weightlifter saying like, okay, today I'm going to body lift X. Like, I don't even know what that is, but like I can pick up like 10 to 20. Like, no, I'm not going to start there. Start with 500 people, farm those people. And then when you get enough money from that, farm the 1,000, farm the 1,500, because it's not a one, like when an agent's like, oh, I'm going to start my marketing campaign. I'm like, yeah, you are. Tell me about that. Oh, I'm going to send 500 postcards. Like I'm going to send 10,000 postcards. How many times are you going to send the 10,000 postcards? It's not like, so farming is about consistency, long period of time, having a message to those people and being, so when somebody gets my Instagram, my LinkedIn, my postcard, my whatever that is, it is working. It's never a failure, even if it goes in the trash, is deleted on it. No, they saw my name, they got it. Farming is getting a little bit, I think it's more intuitional now though, no? Because we all are like inundated with so much information. It's almost like a little bit of a takeaway.
That's right. And it's also, when you get in front of them, that's probably the most valuable piece of information you can get. Because even if they saw it for 2 seconds, to your point, those 2 seconds is worth a hell of a lot more than somebody who didn't even see it, right? Like getting in front of them at the right time is much more important than sending them 12 million postcards that don't make a difference and they don't even see it, or ads or whatever. So
yeah, I mean, I'm selling a building right now on 24th Street in Noe Valley, and the guys own the building for 80 years. Family's owned it for 80 years. So he obviously inherited it. And I was like, hey, how did you arrive at it? He's like, well, 3 people referred you. I'm like, okay, tell me about that. He's like, well, a friend of a family, their agent sold their house, said Allison's the person for that space. Then their friend owed another building. Well, I get this marketing from this gal. And so it was like multiple fronts over a long period of time. It's like, they're going to call me and be like, hey, and then I get to decide, like, is that a person I want to work with? It's a 2-way street. That is the best part about where I'm at in my career. I don't say yes to everything anymore.
Yeah, that's right. You get to pick and choose which deals you want to work on and which ones you don't.
Which people? One person.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I like working with agents too. Like I'm totally into it. Like if an agent's looking to expand their business into the investment side and take their, in particular luxury agents or people who are working in luxury fields or people with clients who are like, I own my house, I want to invest X, loop an agent in, loop a commercial agent, start the conversation with them, and then work with that agent, the commercial agent in partnership to grow their business. Like bring people in.
I love it. It's like creating your little like mastermind group because, right, everybody's got their own niche. And you might know some people that are looking for stuff on the SFR side. They might know some people that are looking for stuff on the mixed use side or multi-unit side. So yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense. So maybe
even if you're in Arizona and you're like, hey, I want to like do this, like, okay, like do it.
Exactly. So talk to us about some of the strengths, which I think I know. It's being authentic, it's being spirituality into it. Like talk to us about some of your strengths and why you think that's set you up for success to becoming one of the top agents in SF, or the top agent in SF?
Well, so I believe in we're all connected and all about manifestation. If whatever you see or whatever I see, we're going to create that. No ands, ifs, or buts. Like attracts like. So for me, for a long time, for over 10 years now, it's like, wake up. Like, who am I looking to connect with? How am I looking to grow? I can't always see where I'm going, but I try to see a few steps ahead and how to grow the business. At this point in my career, it's not just the buildings, it's helping the agents. Like, I'm not just seeing these buildings. I'm seeing who can I help as agents? How can I help the agents with their commercial? In particular, love working with women who are like, hey, I like the residential, but maybe I want to get in the commercial. Maybe I want to control my schedule a little bit more, maybe more. Maybe I have kids, or, I don't want to work all the weekends, or, it's a little bit more investment driven. Everyone resonates on a different energy frequency, and like really owning what that frequency is.
I love it. So talk to us, you touched on this a little bit, the importance of coaching, and in particular, coaching a team. It sounds like you've built a very successful empire, and now you start to give back. What are some of those things that you tell new agents on your team to set them up for success?
Well, I've actually started to simplify the team. Let's go with that. So Natalie Myers, who works with me, she's been with me for like over 10 years. We have started to more spread our wings through everyone else's team. So instead of like the Chapleau group being this big group within itself, which had its strengths, I would rather work with the other teams to be their commercial arm and help them on their team as an agent. Instead of growing the Chapleau team, I'm Allison and we're Natalie, and we can help you and your team with the commercial aspect. And so we're leaping into your team versus us growing our team. So like if you're a client, so you're a residential agent and you're in Palm Springs and you want to do a commercial deal or an industrial deal, and you're like, okay, I'm going to call Allison. She can help me with this. I will take a percentage. It's not a big one. And I'm going to help you get the pricing. I'm going to help you, or I'm going to help you connect with the agent in that market who I know after 24 years. Like, I'm like the industrial, the right people in the right markets. I'm going to connect you with the person. And so instead of me being a large team, I'm going to help your team. And that's where we're going with this, because a lot of residential agents have the ability to do this. Maybe not in the like specialty markets, the triple net market, the hospital, senior housing. There are some specialty commercial markets, which really I would just send that client to the right place and let them house there. But in particular, like the 2 to 10 unit market, the 2 to 15 unit market, non-institutional, multifamily, mixed use, strip center, retail, it is a local market based on a return. And if you look at the buyers who are closing those, and talking about data being really important, look at who's closing those deals. Look at who the owners are. If you look down the strip in Malibu, those owners are local.
Yeah.
And they trust their local agent.
Well, talk to us about maybe the differences between commercial and residential, because obviously there's different price points, but also I would imagine the buyer's journey or seller's journey is a little bit different. So maybe just quickly touch on like how those two things differ for people that haven't decided whether they want to go residential or commercial route.
Yeah, so the big difference is you occupy it or you don't. So as you're residential, you have a house, you wake up there. The selling process is a lot more in your face, right? You're like, I wake up in my house and it's your home, you're doing your deal, right? And someone's selling it. So it's a communication, it's a process. Okay, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're doing it. There's a lot of communication. It's a story happening in your life. When I'm selling your commercial property, I've got your 6 units listed. You're not thinking about it 24 hours a day. I'm not in it with you communicating. This is happening in your life. We're selling your commercial asset or you're buying it. You're in it for the cash flow. It's not like up in your business. And I have the most respect for residential agents, because it's really like when someone decides to sell their house or list their house or buy a house, it's a very personal journey, because that's where you're going to spend your time. You don't tend to spend your time in the commercial real estate world. I mean, I help restaurateur owners and galleries and, and that's a different energy, but in general, yeah. That's where we're at.
That makes sense. And then my favorite question, and I ask everybody this, which is you have 5 minutes with your younger self, and you can tell Allison whatever you want. You can share things that you've learned, you can give her advice, you can tell her things to watch out for, you can, maybe share stock tips. I don't know. But you have 5 minutes with your younger self. You can tell her anything you want. She's just getting started 20 plus years ago. What are some of the things you tell yourself?
I think the top of the matter is like, it's going to be okay. And like, this is all working out. Just show up in the right next step. There's no panic, right? There's a long road. Just keep going at it, knock away, stay focused. And it's really important who you spend your time with. So if I had to go back and tell myself something at 22 sitting in the cubes, it would be like dig down on those relationships, because some of those guys I met at Marcus in 2002, I still look up to, I still do deals with, I still call. Like the network of people that you meet, it's all about relationships. The deals will come and go and it's gonna be okay. But like dig into those relationships. Successful people wanna help people. I think as I'm like talking about this out loud, I didn't understand in my 20s that the really successful other brokers wanted to help me. And that was the difference. Now I understand. I want to help people also. I'm not looking to just take. So that would be it. But it's going to be okay. People want to help you.
Yeah. I love it. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Allison.
Yeah. Thanks, Austin. I appreciate it.